folks, this is GreenyXI, welcoming you right back to Let's Play Higurashi. This is episode 199. In the last episode, Rika started seeing the benefits of this world, and now she has to weigh her options of go back or stay here kind of thing. And she also found out, through seeing the loving version of her mother kind of thing, that her mother is the one she would have to kill. She is the one who is the fragment. So we're going to see today what decision she makes, maybe? Let's go! When I tried using the crystal ball with Yamamoto today, it still hadn't recovered enough for him to talk to Hanyu. Only half a day had passed, but maybe if I went to the storehouse, I'd get through. Hanyu once told me the old A from the past had remained in the storehouse and that she felt comfortable there. Maybe that meant the storehouse was filled with Hanyu's power. In other words, while the crystal ball didn't have quite enough power, maybe being in the storehouse would help a little. Late that night, I slipped out of bed and snuck into the storehouse. I wanted nothing more than to talk to Hanyu. I went to the altar before the holy vessel and spoke into the crystal bowl. Can you hear me, Hanyu? The light in the bowl was feeble, but its otherworldly glow was clearly present. Please, let her hear me. My wish was granted, and a quiet voice, so low it might disappear at any moment, spoke in answer. I can hear you, Rika. Hanyu, thank goodness. Listen, I don't know what to do. I don't know. Ooh. This wasn't the time for crying. I needed to tell her everything I discovered and ask Hanyu's opinion. I quashed my frantic emotions and told her the fragment was in my mother. Hanyu stayed quiet for a few moments. She knew, of course, that I'd have to kill my mother to return the fragment to the world of the gods. It makes sense, doesn't it? You can only appear to Oyashiro-sama's reincarnation. I'm not the 8th in this world, so you can't appear to me. The 9th isn't good enough, huh? It was a very long time ago. Ancient times. So ancient even I've mostly forgotten. It happened back when Hanyu was still living in Hinamazawa. Before Hanyu became Oyashiro-sama. It was how it all began, which Hanyu never told me about no matter how much I asked her. My human self, that is, when I decided I would become a god. My daughter, your ancestor, Rika, was very sad about that. She knew I'd made the decision, because I'd lost hope in the human world. I took all the sins of the human world upon me, for there was no other way to cleanse those sins other than to destroy the sinners themselves. People were forcing their sins on each other, an ugly existence. Their excessive cruelty caused me to lose hope in this world. I undertook all the sins of the human world and cleansed them by letting them kill me. I entrusted that final duty to my own daughter. I thought that unless I gave her that role, she would one day be despised as the daughter of a demon god and lose all hope in the human world herself. My daughter didn't like that role, but she understood the weight of her mission, and in the end she went through with it. But she said something to me. That she would change the human world, in which only the price of life could purify its sins. Humans would combine their strength and help each other, cooperating with mutual benefit in mind. She swore to me that she would create this utopia, which her mother had only dreamed of. Please, mother, do not lose hope in the world of man. I swear I shall heal that sadness. But I would become a god. I couldn't accept my daughter's feelings. No, actually, that wasn't it. I had already lost hope in the corrupted world of man, and I just didn't want to look at it anymore. But my daughter made a firm promise that she would remake that world into something better. Then I shall believe in what you feel. When in this land people live happily, aid one another, support one another, and think as one, I shall return to this land once more. My daughter killed me and took control of the village, the divine power of the demon god dwelling within her. She became their leader and created doctrines so that everyone would trust in and help one another. By making them to fear a curse where discordant hearts would revive the spectre of the demon god. She led them strictly, not letting my purification go to waste, so that those purified sins would never again revisit the village. And so the village did regain a temporary peace, but I never descended to them again. I had rejected the human world much too strongly, but no matter how strong the power to reject, it can never last forever. Whether hearts or walls or lids or doors, there's nothing that time will not decay. Even the power shutting me away from the human world wouldn't last forever. My daughter would learn the limits of that power through a revelation from a higher god than me. It was said that when 8 generations of Frude bore a girl as their first child, I would come again. The miracle of 8 consecutive firstborn girls would be the key that broke my power of rejection. My daughter left that legend to the Frude family, and it passed down to her descendants, so that this land would continue becoming my ideal. So Rika, we get to see her portrait. When you were born as the 8th girl in a row, I was connected to the human world again. Long ago, I may have hated and shunned the human world, but a millennium without contact was more than enough time to heal my sadness. At some point, I actually started to feel sad at the prospect of living in a world where I was all alone. I had intended to spend those 1,000 years in rejection, but it was also a punishment for me. I realised how shallow my feelings had been when I hated and despaired over the human world. And before I realised it, the Frude family started giving me birth to consecutive girls. When your mother was pregnant, I wished so much for it to be a girl. I'm sure. The first face I remember seeing wasn't my mother's, it was yours. Maybe abandoning the human world for 1,000 years was my punishment. Humans can only live in the human world, and they must live earnestly in the world they are born into. For someone who made light of that and tried to abandon the world so easily, maybe an exile of 1,000 years is a fitting punishment. Hanyu's words were heavy. Maybe having been carefree in our walk between countless worlds, even comparing our lives to dice rolls, we had been sinful. I lived with you, my friend and daughter of 1,000 years ago. And when we came to the dead end of 1983, I committed another sin. I used my power to change your fate. You saying that in the very first world, you should have accepted the fate of Takano cutting me open and killing me? It may sound cruel to you, Rika, but that's how I feel right now. I made light of the world I lived in, and I made light of the world you lived in too. I should have lived in earnest in the world where we were together. I should have welcomed it, no matter its end. Stop that. Wallowing in masochism might make you feel better, but it makes me unhappy. I said I didn't want to surrender to that fate, and that I'd fight on forever to achieve a much more wonderful life. I made the 100-year journey with you. But at the end, it's absurd to come out with that now. You're just being sentimental. Aren't you just making light of this world too, which you and I built together over 100 years? Don't you think that's selfish? It is man's sin to save a dying animal, then bask in rapture. We go up the snowy mountain, kill the beasts, and offer their numbers to the gods. After all this, you're saying it was my fate to die too? You've gone insane. I don't care what you say. The world we won is a result of our sweat and tears. You and I are the only ones who can understand how brilliantly it shines. And now you're rejecting it? Rika, please let me get back on topic. Once I had my fill of this world with you, the 8th, I planned to disappear at the end of your life. It had nothing to do with the time you'd be alive for, so I never told you. But in that world, your mother is the 8th. That means I've already had contact with the world of man, was satisfied with how wonderful Hinamazawa had become, and I've already left for a higher plane. In that world, I've already left. That's why I can't appear there. But there's a fragment of your world there, and it's in my mother, which means this. Only my mother knows that she is the 8th. If I kill her, the contradictory force saying you can't appear here will vanish. Correct? That's right. Originally, it was an obvious fact that your mother is the 8th in that world, and killing her wouldn't necessarily change anything. But after you drifted here from another world, Rika, it would be like mooring a boat to a dock. It was fortunate only your mother knew the truth. If a lot of other people knew, you would have had to kill them all. I'm sure you wanted my opinion on whether you should kill your mother to return to the previous world or stay in this world. I did. This whole time, I've been investigating what kind of world you're in. And when I found out what it was, I expected this day would eventually come. And I predicted you would grow indecisive and talk to me about it, and that you would want to choose a world based on the result of our discussion. So I thought long and hard about how to guide you. Unlike the world of gods, the worlds in the world of man are narrow. No matter what words I choose, they will carry bias within them. I thought very hard about what words to say so that you would truly choose for yourself. And I still am. After all, you've left the answer in my hands. If I suggested you should choose this world, you would choose it. You would shift the responsibility of paying the price to me. That would be cowardly, and there is no worth in a life resulting from such a decision. As someone who has trodden countless worlds and left her footprints outside the world of man, you must make a responsible choice, without relying on me, with your own strength. I know what you're trying to say. You couldn't bear me shifting the blame and saying this happened because I did what you said. Decide your own life for yourself. Easy enough to understand. I wanted to tell you this too. I was happy spending my life with you. And through those countless worlds we walked together, I learned that Hinamazawa overflowed with kind and gentle cooperation. It had everything I wanted from the world. I wanted to say that even if you chose a world without me in it, and I was to disappear, I would still be happy. Hanyu. Hanyu had foreseen this. Foreseen that this world would grow ever warmer for me. But Hanyu herself was in opposition to this world. Any amount of discussing this with Hanyu, who was from the previous world, would only make it more difficult to forsake that one. She had even anticipated that after discussing it with her, I would need to make a decision from an impartial viewpoint. That's why she said it. She wanted to accept whatever fate Rika Furude's decision gave her. She didn't want me to worry about her, and lived in the world that I liked the best. Let's say I did choose this world. What would happen to you? Because of that world's rules, our long journey together would come to an end. For you, a life in that world, and for me, the fact that my time has already ended in that world would be applied. Doesn't that mean you would disappear? But that's a really, really pleasant thing. Rika, you seem to think of me as me dying. And at first I thought so too, that the me in that world would die. But the Hanyu of that world, she may have disappeared, but she was filled with joy. She spent her life with your mother, enjoying her time to the fullest. Your mother is still alive, but that world's version of me is having a wonderful dream, enveloped in kindness, in a sleep from which she'll never awake. I'm sure that warmth, that comfort, is like that of a mother's womb. Now that I know that, I actually wonder if you will choose that world for me. Are you serious? If you had lived for 1,000 years, Rika, you would understand the warmth. I could feel an ecstasy in Hanyu's words. Hanyu had lived for a millennium, and she understood that in a way I couldn't. You have to be joking. I'm just a kid. I'm only 100 years old. Of course I can't understand. Rika, would you please stop using me as a reason to run away from this choice? That was the truth. My old world and this one are being weighed on scales in my heart. It isn't tipping, even slightly, toward either side. Trying to shift the responsibility for choosing onto Hanyu was just me being irresponsible. I can tell you everything about that world's construction to help you make your choice. First, Keiichi Maebara, who told us many times that destiny could be broken. He did not transfer schools in this world. I knew that for a while now. He wasn't in my class. For a time, Keiichi suffered the stress of his entrance exams, but unlike in the previous world, he wasn't firing any toy guns at children. He strengthened his mind, endured the temptation, and finally overcame his mental weakness. Right now, he's trying to deal with the exams, awaiting him as someone with a firm pride in his breast. Which means Keiichi's sin is absent, which is why he never moved here. Ren and Ryugu too never moved to Ibaraki since her parents' company stayed in business. Therefore the divorce didn't happen either. For that reason, Rena will feel no guilt. Rena had no sin either. On the day of the ceremony where the elder sister had her back tattooed, Mion Sonzaki and Shion Sonzaki didn't switch places. I see. I got the feeling that the Mion at school seemed somehow different. She always loved board games, but she talked about her little sister knowing more about them. I see. I get it. Mion didn't push her role as the successor onto her younger sister, and now spends her days training to be the head of the family. Shion too attends a distant school so she can support the family without getting in the way, and she's working her hardest as we speak. The sisters both felt guilty at switching on the day of the tattoo ceremony. If that didn't happen, then... Mion and Shion had no sin. I don't think I need to go on, but Satoko Hojo doesn't carry the sin of patricide. Satoko grew closer with her stepfather, and they rebuilt their relationship. Because of that, she wasn't possessed by that terrible illness. The Hojo family didn't oppose the village, and they weren't even ostracized. Satoko had no sin. Well, for Satoko and her family, this would be their ideal world. For Satoko and her family? Wait, no. Isn't this the ideal world for everybody? Keiichi came to Hinamazawa because he had committed a sin, but in this world he didn't and was right now living his very best. Rena avoided her sad fate too and never sinned. She called herself by her given name, Reina, and was living happily. Mion and Shion were leading happy lives too. Without the tattoo incident, they were friendly sisters the way they'd been born. They were forced to live apart due to family matters, but that wouldn't be enough to tear them apart. For Satoko, this world was exactly the world of her dreams. Surrounded by the warmth of her family and big brother, she was leading a bright and healthy life. This is the world that I, as her friend, should be wishing for the most. For Satoshi, well, this was the only world in which he still existed. In all the worlds I've been to, this was the only one where he was alive. Satoshi couldn't exist anywhere but here. And Rika Furude. For Rika, this world was... Maybe I had 0 friends. Compared to my old world, that was very sad. But I could change that now, through time and effort. Maybe I was sad Keiichi wasn't here. But Keiichi was living a resolute life in the place he originally lived. Instead I had Satoshi. He wasn't the same as Keiichi, but he was very kind and considerate. Even the club I was disappointed didn't exist could start the very next day if I wanted it to. With the Hojo siblings, Mion, Rena and me. Maybe my other classmates too? What would the club be like with so many people? I didn't think I'd be able to compare it to the fun we had with Keiichi and the rest. I knew I wouldn't be able to place one over the other. My parents were in this world, and I'd already learned how to interact with them as Rika Furude, who had regained the love of her family. My parents weren't in the previous world, but I had lively roommates that wouldn't leave me feeling lonely. Sadako and Hanyu. If I chose this world, I'd have to say goodbye to Hanyu, the friend I'd spent 100 years with. Friend? No. If what Hanyu said was true, then she was my ancestor and a mother to me, which meant she was on the exact same level as my father and mother. She was my family. My parents and Hanyu were both very important to me. I couldn't possibly weigh them against each other. That world's the ideal world, born of someone's dream. Nobody related to you has sinned. It's a very, very pure, clear and beautiful world. I've already left that world, and Rika's life hasn't been corrupted. So I have no sin either. And you, Rika, you haven't corrupted your own life, so neither do you. Even Takano has no sin. Not a single person does. A perfectly white, blank world. That's right. And you can choose that now, Rika. Maybe this world's a valuable opportunity given to you at the end of your century-long journey by the god of fate, who even I've never met. They could have been a little more compassionate about it. Which is why that god gave you the chance to go back to your old world too. By committing the gravest sin of matricide, you can choose to release yourself from this sinless paradise. Hanyu? You said your daughter killed you. What do you think of me repeating the act? If I were your mother, I would probably say this. If it made you happy, I would not spare my own life. It might be too early for you to understand, Rika, but it's a feeling only someone who has given birth to a child and become a mother could know. I was once a mother, so I understand. If you said going back to your old world would make you happy, your mother would gladly offer you her life. She couldn't. She's the one person who wouldn't ever say that. She'd just scream, "You crazy!" and go into hysterics. But then I remembered my mother's smile when we made curry together. Would it be so strange if such fearsome words came from her mouth? I don't regret my daughter killing me. Thanks to that, the sin she might have inherited was cleansed. If I had spared my own life, my daughter might have been persecuted, same as me. But have you ever thought about what the daughter who killed you felt? It's easier to die, isn't it? You can wallow in devotion and virtue as you die peacefully. But the killer has to bear that cross forever. Didn't you say so before? Your daughter vowed to create a Hinamizawa where everyone wanted to help each other, all for your sake. And your daughters over 1,000 years went along with your sin. Maybe you shouldn't have died. I don't know what the sin you were bearing was, but you should have lived and fought. Fought so that your descendants wouldn't have to bear the sin. But you surrendered, and for 1,000 years, your descendants have been bearing your cross. Right? Hanyu was silent. That without a doubt was Hanyu's sin. It was easy to die for her daughter's sake, but her daughter's guilt would never heal. But when Hanyu answered, she remained undaunted. Then let me ask you, Rika. You, who say I should have lived and fought, what will you do now, in that world? Do you wish to live in that world, accepting the reality you're in, and always fighting the oddities different from your old world? Will you abandon that world that you gained after 100 years, stained in grime and sweat, and yet still beautiful? She was right. Maybe this world was beautiful. But that didn't mean the way my old world shone wasn't beautiful too. Why wouldn't it be? We'd won that fate after such a long journey. And even now you call that world, which you gained at the end of a century, your original world. So however pleasant this world may be, shouldn't you throw it all away? Fight away the desire to stay in this world and return to your original one? Even if you had to destroy this world, liberated from the sins of all related to you? Ugh. My daughter, who tells me to fight. You too should fight. To fight is not to defeat and overcome the obstacles before you. In the end, that's no more than a simple detour on the straight path before you. To truly fight is to make your own choices. At every choice in life, at every crossroads, people hesitate. Having one choice brightly illuminated and then selecting it, such a predetermined choice is not a fight. When no matter how many times you are presented with a choice, you choose the same one, it's inevitability. A real choice is when you truly think and worry, when you never know which you should choose. It's precisely the same as the choice between the red box and blue box you spoke of once before. Will you choose the red box or the blue? To choose without guidance demands incredible courage and determination. That's a true choice. If you knew what was in the boxes, it would no longer be a choice. It's because you do not know what's inside that you can be satisfied with what's in the box you choose. If you knew the contents of the other, it could lead to despair. Being left at a crossroads with no guidance and no hints is what it means to live. You may lazily continue to choose the right, or knock over the sign and choose at random. You may also search carefully for hints, worrying over how beneficial the left or right would be, and remain at the crossroads forever. Thus, you would be able to accept the final result awaiting you as your own responsibility, would you not? You would not grow old and go into your coffin wanting advice from your parents, would you? Worry, choose, and go forward. That's the fight. I earnestly worried and chose my own life. My daughters earnestly worried and chose their own lives. For each and every one of us, that is sacred. It's precious. The descendant 1,000 years later must not sully that. All who lived in that age were always beautiful. You must not speak of their lives, using the values of later generations. Lastly, I'll tell you something very important. The Kamu no Mikoto no Ri's power that connects us will soon be lost forever. I'll never again be able to interfere with that world. So this is the last night I'll be able to hear one of these helpful lectures. There's one more thing. The fragment that has appeared in your mother will lose its power forever when the sun sets tomorrow. Losing doesn't mean disappearing. It means you will forever lose the chance to take back that fragment with your own hands. Which means I need to make my decision about whether to go back to my original world by sundown tomorrow. There's no third option to put the choice off. No. You may also choose to flee the decision, purposely ignoring the last moment you have to choose, and passively stay in that world. If you did, would you live that life differently than one you chose proactively? Whether or not I chose proactively was also whether or not I would accept this world. If I continued to live here without accepting it, I would drag along all the distress that I currently held forever. Compared to that, maybe it would be a lot better just to choose one or the other. But even that wasn't easy. Hanyu had said that very distress itself was the battle. Now Rika, fight. Your fight will last until sundown tomorrow, but please don't run away, because whichever world you decide on, I know that world will be a wonderful one. Just like the world you gained after fighting for 100 years was, the world you choose after fighting through this will become wonderful, I'm sure of it. So please Rika, you mustn't choose one without fighting. People are never ever satisfied with the result of a choice they didn't struggle with. Thank you, Hanyu. I'll fight. With this choice. If I can meet you again, it will be in our original world. And if it's this world, then take a good rest to heal your millennium of exhaustion. Thank you for everything. Thank you so much. It was because of your strength that I mistook my own life for something I could do over as many times as I wanted. If that's who I am, then I feel like it would be strange somehow if I was living in my original world. It was easy for me to think that if I slipped up in any small way, I could just do it over. But that wouldn't make that world a wonderful one. In that sense I understand just a little your sin of using your power on me when you shouldn't have. But that sin belongs to me too, for walking through such an easy life. As we travelled all those worlds, I called it re-rolling the dice, treating my own life without respect. I think that this world taught me the weight of that decision. So at the end, being able to choose a wonderful world either way means I really am lucky, right? I have no doubt that I'm the most fortunate person in all these worlds. Thank you, Hanyu. Thank you for giving me your kind words until the very end, when I was just stupid and conceited. I'll worry over this with everything I have. I'll worry and worry and worry and grasp a really, really wonderful world. So thank you, Hanyu. Hanyu, please, answer me. Ooh. The crystal ball was now quiet and cold in my hands, and gave off only a dull reflection of the flashlight that illuminated me. I shed all the tears I could. I thought if I didn't, I would hesitate when it came to time to choose, so I cried out everything I had, and I thanked her for our 100-year relationship. because depending on my choice, I might never get to say those words again. Then I replaced the crystal ball on the altar, where it was now just a marble, slipped out of the storehouse and crawled back into bed. There was no way I was going to sleep. At least, that was what I thought until I wrapped myself in linens, felt the cool wind on my bare feet, and drifted off to sleep without realising it. Rika Frude was going to sleep. I was going to sleep. Good night, everyone. Good night. Me. And the sun rose again on another wonderful day for Rika Frude, the day to make the choice. She took her first step, her first small effort to become friends with her classmates again. And at home she was wrapped in her parents' love. And the sun brightening her wonderful day, fell behind the mountains and disappeared. Is it going straight to the evening? That's interesting. So the question is now, is she just enjoying her last day? Oh, hold on. Long, long ago, there was a god who appeared before mankind. Bread rained down from the heavens. Some lamented that it was not meat. Meat rained down from the heavens. Some lamented that they preferred bread. God descended down from the heavens. Until I know what will make you all happy, water shall rain down. Water rained down from the heavens. All lamented that their clothes grew wet. Fire rained down from the heavens. All lamented that their homes burned down. God descended down from the heavens. Until I know what will make all happy, nothing shall rain down. Nothing rained down from the heavens. Some lamented that God had abandoned them. Many things rained down from the heavens. Some lamented that God would not make a choice. Huge rocks rained down from the heavens. At long last, there were none who lamented. Water rained down from the heavens. A passing traveller was grateful. God, thank you for the unexpected weather. With this, my journey will never be dull. God said nothing and watched him leave. All for the best. Gods and dice should both be silent. Frederica Berncastle. And whatever it says below that. It's not quite English. So what that's saying, I think, is that humankind is never happy with anything. Ooh. Do you know who I am, Rika-chan? Meep, yes. Where am I? After hearing that answer, the nurse burst out of the room in sheer surprise. How rude. Where's Dr. Irie? Dr. Irie! So she made the choice then to kill her mother and go back to her original world? Or maybe it was all just some dream from, the accident, the truck. Where's Dr. Irie? Call him at once. Tell him Rika-chan has come too. My head hurts. Oh, thank goodness, thank goodness. Do you remember what happened? Meep. Is this the clinic? Yes. While you were heading back to Hinamazawa with your friends, you had an accident and hit your head and never woke up again. We feared your consciousness would never return. Thank goodness, oh thank goodness. Irie even had a few tears in his eyes as he spoke. I was still just a little scared. I wanted to make sure this was the world I knew so well. So I mustered my courage and asked Irie. Yes, all your friends were incredibly worried about you. Satoko-chan, of course, and Mayabara-kun, and Mion-san, Rena-san. Unfortunately, Satoshi-kun still hasn't reached a state where he can wake up yet. And my mother? Your memories must still be a little confused. That happens when you've been unconscious for a long time. Is she dead? Yes, she died 2 years ago on the day of Watanagashi. Were you dreaming of your mother while you were asleep? Thank you. I'm fine now. Knowing that my mother is dead gives me a complex feeling. But there wasn't any doubt that this was the world I knew so well. And according to Irie, it had been a little over a month since the accident. After telling me he'd be right back, he scrambled out of the room. Left in my hospital room filled with the voices of cicadas, I could do nothing but wander through my vague memories for a time. I was fooling around on my bike while heading home from playing at the pool with everyone, and got hit by a car, right? But the world I awoke to after that is still vivid in my mind. And if this is my original world, then after grappling with that difficult choice, I chose my old world, and safely ended my long journey to return to it? Yeah. Or was that all just a long dream I had? Exactly, you'll never know. Like Irie said, while I was in a coma from the accident. I didn't know. Hanyu, you there? Yay! Oh, that's good. Waking up in that world and not seeing you straight away was really disheartening. Has something like that ever happened? I've always been the first one you saw whenever you woke up, Rika. Hanyu speaks to me while wearing an affectionate expression, but her saying that at length just makes me remember the world of just a few moments ago. Because for the first time, Hanyu wasn't there when I woke up. Hanyu, that world, was it a dream? Or was it real? I don't really understand what you're saying, Rika. Did something happen? Are you serious? Rika, I don't understand what you're talking about. Was Hanyu playing dumb, or was she telling the truth? I couldn't tell. Then what was that world I was just in? A dream? A dream. Hanyu answered immediately, and hearing that convinced me. That sinless world was no dream. Then I killed her with my own hands. Remember there I had the fragment. I shouldn't have been able to return to my original world without killing her. If I was here, that meant I'd killed her. And then, after I killed her, I had to kill myself, like usual, to send myself to the world of the gods. And conveniently, when I die, it goes back through my memories right before the event and tears them apart. So it was only natural that my memories of personally killing my mother didn't remain. I'm sort of glad that the game didn't show the part where she killed her mother. That could be really distressing. Trembling, I looked at the palms of my hands. They were pure white, pale and bloodless. No, that was just it. That alone made me remember the feeling spread across my hands, that warm, sticky, slimy sensation. Ah! My fragment welled up inside me. Something inside me was desperately holding back the memories of that alien world. Crying out for some reason, desperately holding them back. Because if they spilled out, they would surely swallow me whole. Rika, you need to calm down. Hanyu put her hand to my forehead, and I felt as though something was grabbing my lungs in a fist. I sensed of suffocation, like something was squeezing the breath out of me. But it was squeezing those feelings about to swallow me up too, and they couldn't come up any further. In exchange for the choking sensation, I gulped down the rising emotions, beginning to steadily regain my composure. Hanyu realised it and took her hand away. Gah! Ugh! Hoo ha ha! Have you calmed down? You were asleep for a long time, so you must be confused. You should do as Irie says for a while. Take your meds and get some bed rest. Hanyu, wait, tell me. Was that world? Look, everyone's arrived. I'll only be in the way, so I'll disappear for a while. Hanyu! I started to hear many footsteps running down the hallway. Hanyu whirled around as though pivoting on her heel and vanished. In exchange, the hospital door clattered violently open and my beloved club member friends appeared. Rika! Rika! Sadako. Hey Sadako, Rika just woke up. You shouldn't be hugging her. It's okay, Keiji-kun. Thank goodness, thank goodness. Clinging to me, Sadako fell to her knees on the spot and started bawling without hesitation. Welcome back, Rika-chan. We had faith you'd come back to us. Yeah, because when we all believe in one thing, a miracle is sure to happen. That's how we beat Takano-san in that crazy battle, right? Because we all believed in a miracle. Everyone believed that you'd come back for sure, Rika-chan. We came to visit every day. We knew for sure you'd wake up, so we came every day. Oh, thank goodness. Coach says your memories are a little bit muddled. You didn't forget about this old man and the rest of us, right? I know Sadako and Rena and Keiichi are, but I don't know who you are, me. Nippa. Bitch. I guess you're alright. This was something I couldn't ever have asked before. But just to make absolutely sure this really was my original world, I asked anyway, pretending my memory was still confused. Is Satoshi not coming? Sadako gave a somewhat lonely smile and spoke. Nini still hasn't come back after running away 2 years ago, remember? Rika, you could be so forgetful. Her expression makes my chest tighten. She was definitely the Sadako from my original world. I see. Your memories do seem a little confused. You said it wouldn't last and that there was nothing to worry about. It's the same as when you get a phone call that wakes you up and says strange things while half asleep. Yeah. I mean, you were sleeping in for almost a month after all. This whole month, I felt like I was having a dream. Oh, having a fabulous time, I'm sure, in spite of how worried we were. It was a very mysterious world, I think. It was Hinamizawa just like you, but a bunch of things were different. First of all, Keiichi wasn't here. Hey, what? Why'd you have to leave me out? Because in that world, the incident with the gun didn't happen. In that world, you didn't have all those regrets. That wasn't all it was. I realised this would be my only chance to confess to my own sin. Everyone listened as I told them all about the world. Whenever some small thing was different, they'd respond one way or the other about it, but they listened to me seriously. So the reason I'm here is because I weighed that world and this one, and chose this world, I think. You probably saw the other side of the river Styx, like a near-death experience. If you had chosen that world, you probably wouldn't have come back here. Yeah, if I chose that one, I don't think I would have returned. We all believe you'd come back, Rika-chan. And you believed it too, so that means our hands reached each other. I think you were doing your best to come back to us while you were asleep. What a good girl. Kaiji grinned and patted my head, but it seemed like he was mistaken what I meant. I hadn't returned. I'd compared that world and this one and chosen this one. Why had I chosen this world? Because this one was more comfortable to be in. Sadko was always with me, everyone in the club was here, and they were nice to me and spoiled me. But all that was still a world built on top of everyone's sins and misfortune. In other words, I had chosen to sacrifice the others for my own happiness. Shamelessly, self-centeredly, and selfishly. Everyone was fulfilled in that world. Only I wasn't. But I knew that I too could be happy there if I put in the hard work. But at the very end, I'd chosen this world. I chose the world where I could rest on my laurels, atop the suffering and tears of my friends. That sounds like a very interesting world. Thank you. You wanted us all to be happy, even if it was just a dream. Rena smiled as she said that. Only she seemed to understand what I really meant by what I said. But you know, if I got the chance to choose between those two worlds, I think this world would have been the right choice. Why? It's true that my mother's divorce was really sad for me. It changed a lot, but thanks to that, I learned a lot too. So the Reina in the other world you talked about probably isn't as human as this Reina is. You thought I was an exemplary person even as Reina in your dream, but when I was actually Reina, I wasn't a very respectable person. What I mean is, when my mother got divorced, it was really hard and sad for me. But now I can accept it, since maybe it was just one of the trials a person has to go through in their life. It's true that the trials of life, of failure, make a person grow. Yeah, I get what Rena means too. I didn't go to Hinamizawa in that world, but I was probably a total loser. I regret that incident more than anything I've ever done, and I won't forget it as long as I live. I'll probably have to reflect on it until the day I die. But like Rena said, thanks to that incident I learned a lot of important lessons. Thinking about whether there was a world where I could make it so past incidents never happened might be attractive, but I don't think about that stuff. I think they're all important foundations that pile up to make the Kaiichi Maebara here today. Oh, but that goes for me as well. I was a spoiled child before and I would have stayed that way as long as Nini was here. Having a world where Nini would never leave home is indeed an attractive invitation. But staying with him and continuing to be a spoiled child would mean nothing. So I would choose this world, because now I can be proud of myself and wait for Nini to return. Do you all really think that? I worried so much, thinking I had to erase my sin, and now you're rejecting the choice of a beautiful world where those sins don't exist? Yep. I think this world is more valuable. But why? Because the future of this world was something we all worked together to achieve. The people in that world were just idling their time away, right? Idling away. But is living without sin a sin in itself? It's not. But this one is still more valuable. I think the flowers that grow up in a greenhouse without difficulty are beautiful, sure. But maybe wildflowers that withstand the rain and wind and heat and cold have something more to them than beauty. I'm only talking about how important that is. Is there a reason to be ashamed of a beat-up wildflower? But if you asked it to choose whether to grow up in a greenhouse or a field. Oh, I get it. That's what you've been getting wrong all along, Rika-chan. Meep? We're all wildflowers that sprouted in the field, aren't we? Once you've bloomed, there's no point in comparing them to an impossible, imaginary future. Rika-chan, you're talking from the point of view of something higher than a flower, something not human. Which of those two worlds is happier? The only ones that can debate that are the gods who can go between those worlds. But for the human named Rika-chan, there's only one world. No, wait. I mean, you're in both worlds, but you can't go between them. The wildflower you and the greenhouse you both exist. And I think both of them are living proudly, following the destiny of their worlds. The wildflower saying things like, I wouldn't have struggled with anything if I grew up in a greenhouse, doesn't make sense to begin with. We're all flowers. Wherever we plant our roots and sprout, we do our best to grow and bloom. Wishing you were born into a super rich family is what losers say in their sleep. If you have time to fantasize, you should start putting in effort and find a cheap supermarket so you can save up change. Yeah. Sadko's proud of herself, so even if there was a world where she was super rich, I think you could compare them and not find either of them to be worse than the other. Well, I must say, if I had to choose, I'd prefer to be super rich. I wonder, Rika-chan, you still having second thoughts even after waking up in this world? Like whether this was really the right choice? You thinking that maybe the other one would have been good too? Those words were probably the root of these cheerless feelings. I love this world. But I couldn't help but be troubled given the depth of my own sin, of abandoning that world and insisting everyone else be sinners. Shouldn't I have chosen that world for the sake of everyone I loved? They've unanimously decided this world was better, but in a way, it was just acceptance, since they hadn't been granted the choice of selecting one of the two. That was why everyone thought positively and went with this world. If they could have actually chosen, they'd all be conflicted too. It must be hard. So that's why the sadness deep down won't heal, Rika-chan. And yet, only Rena seemed to have figured everything out. I know, I'll explain it to you like a game, so that you can understand too, Rika-chan. Mi-chan, you brought candy with you today, right? Huh? Sure, why? What was she going to do? Then, Rena grabbed it with both her hands and stuck them out toward me. Here, Rika-chan, it's a present. I wonder which of these hands is better. Which is? Meep, you won't make me play a punishment game for a guess wrong, will you? Oh, there's nothing like that. Don't worry, just choose. Even considering how we usually did club games, there really were no hints at all. I looked at the size of Rena's fists, but I couldn't begin to guess which had the candy in it. Oh, whatever. Time to test my luck. Then I choose this fist. This one? Here. Rena opened her fist and revealed candy. I must have made the right choice. Congratulations. Here, say, ah. Ah. Is it good? It was the standard but nostalgic taste of strawberry milk. As it shrunk as I rolled it around in my mouth and sucked on it, I couldn't help but give a smile. It's good. Nipa. You happy? Then Rika-chan's world is happy. I'm really happy that I won your choice game. Victory is sweet. Hey, Rika-chan, why do you think you won? Meep? Rena showed me her other palm, the one I didn't choose. Ah. In her hand she was holding 2 pieces of candy. In other words, the one I chose was wrong. At that moment, and this was really obvious, but I immediately realised how merry I had been feeling. That feeling right now is close to how you're feeling about this, isn't it? As soon as you compare different worlds, you're already overstepping your bounds as a person. It's God's job to worry about over which is better, not ours. We only ever have one world given to us, and we're made so that we can find happiness in it. In your dream, Rika-chan, you were a god who could go between 2 worlds, which made you feel like that. But you can't worry about what was in my other hand. Give me 2 seconds. Okay, I'm back. That's some apple crumble. Let's go. I was a witch who had lived 100 years in countless worlds. That was exactly why I'd always believed I was special. Someone who had overcome millions of choices to gain happiness. That I was able to gain happiness. That I was sure to. But I had it completely backwards. I wasn't any better than anyone else. When it came to finding happiness, I was the worst of them all. Then I remembered how Hanyu had so curtly and quickly told me the other world was a dream. It wasn't a dream. But now that I'd chosen, this was reality, and that really was nothing more than a dream. When a cat's in a box, you can imagine 2 futures, one where it's alive, one where it's dead. But when you open it, there's only one future. The other future, at that moment, becomes no more than a dream. The one who opens it accepts the future inside and lives. Worrying about which of the 2 futures in the box was better was a job for those who weren't human, those who could interfere with the contents. As a mere human being, I'd awkwardly trodden in the world of the gods, which was why I'd misunderstood some important things, wasn't it? In that world, Hanyu had regrets. She regretted having used the power of the gods to interfere with my life. And now I finally understood why. She was quite clear about it. She clearly said that people had to live the best they could in their world. I had to stop being this witch. Yes. I knew now that I was not the witch named Burncastle, but Rika Furude. My copy had lived for 100 years, bending fate to her whim, and maybe she still exists in some higher dimension than this human world. But that was no longer who I was. I was Rika Furude. In this world I would live, and in this world I would seize happiness. I mustn't use that power ever again. Which meant I had to make sure not to treat my own life without respect from now on. Which meant, guess I should be more careful about traffic accidents. You're right. Oh, you're right. Never mess around while riding your bike again. Yes, you're absolutely right. Children who don't know something that obvious have no right to pretend to be witches. It doesn't make a lick of sense. Alright everyone, let's leave things at that for today. Rika-chan's still very weak right now. You can all come visit again tomorrow, so let's let her have some rest. Coach appeared and clapped his hands together, but my friends weren't finished saying goodbye just yet. Rika, you alright now? Thank you. Ren explained everything to me better than your tied-up tongue ever could. I'm okay now. The next time you lose your life, I'll have to accept that fate. Yeah, I think I'm fine with that too. Children who mess around on the road get hit by cars every day in Japan. Just happened to occur in Hinamizawa too. If I have something to be frustrated about, it's not crossing the road on a red light from now on. But are you okay with that? You used to throw tantrums about how lonely you would be without me. If I'm alright now, I made a very important friend. Really? Who is it? Introduce me. I'm not telling. Oh. I see. That means I'm Rika Furude, right? If you think so, Rika, then you are. Thank you. Thank you for what? A bunch of things. After Irie admonished everyone else, they all glumly got ready to go home. Hanyu too was about to disappear. But I clapped my fist into my hand as if remembering something and spoke to her. Hey Hanyu! What is it? In that other world, I promised I'd fill the refrigerator with cream puffs once I returned to my original world. But that was a dream, so I can forget about it, right? Ow! Oh, God. You're breaking character. Rika, I'll bring you something tomorrow when we visit. Is there anything you want to eat? Rika-chan likes spicy things, doesn't she? She likes going to the Korean food fair at the department store in Gogura, doesn't she? I wonder if they sell super hot kimchi there. Ow. Ow. I want something sweet. Sweet? Okay, what kind? Then let's all go buy a shortcake. The ones at Angel Malt are especially delicious. Then I'll go with some cream puffs from Angel Malt. Cheap ones are fine, I just want to eat a lot. It's a good thing you're energetic enough to eat. It doesn't matter what kind of food, if you eat a lot, you'll be back to normal. Now then everyone, visiting hours are over. Everyone began to leave. Hanyu too. Now we're even, right? I didn't do you any favours. Right. That was a dream after all. Good night, Rika. Sweet dreams. Is that going to end it? Oh, it would have been a good point. Good night, Rika Furude. And please, treat the future you won with care. Thank you. Alright. After I get out, the first thing I'll do is go visit my parents' grave. I realised something just now. I had to kill my mother to return to this world. The fragment coming out when I killed her, or whatever, wasn't the problem. Choosing a world in which my mother wasn't here was already killing her. Until now, I'd chosen this world without feeling any sorrow for it. But killing my mother every time. That was what you wanted me to realise, wasn't it? The sins you feel in me. That's probably one of them. I'd stopped respecting my parents. And I finally realised that in the other world. Rika, thank you for realising. I feel as though the most important sin I felt from you has been cleared, or cleansed. It'll be okay, Rika. Your hands are not stained with your mother's blood. That was all something I showed you because I wanted to be mean to you for a little while. All just a dream. Maybe you forget all of it when you awaken from your slumber. Good night, Rika. Sleep deep, sleep deep. As I dream of how you will colour your life in the future. Oh, this has been such a good arc, and I love it in the anime as well. It's so nice. It's a little bit different, and it extends the story a little bit. Beyond the Sticks, finish the Higurashi chapter. There we go. Finished it. It was short, but that's why I think they give you 3 in this one, 3 arcs. They're all going to be short. But that's the first one done. I feel like the other 2 are going to be even shorter because they have less sort of plot relevance if they do it the same in the visual novel as they did in this. Can we click continue? That'll just go back to that, so we have to do start. See how it works. I think it went, I'll go to the choice, right? Yeah. So we did Higurashi. Next time then, we'll be going for Higurashi and we'll check out that. So, this has been Greeny XI. Hope you've enjoyed. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you again in a wee bit when we go for Higurashi. In a bit, folks.